未知の液体を分析する。
Let us determine just what we have found here. Let us pour liquid from the bottle into a test tube to perform an analysis.
瓶から試験管。
This is the bottle that we found hidden at Kew Gardens. Let us use a pipette to take a sample of the liquid and fill a test tube.
ピペットを使って取って試験管に注ぐ。で
A colorless, water-based liquid.
無色。匂い浮かぶ。
Quite a strong
花
floral
の香
aroma.
り。味見する？大丈夫なの？
Holmes?
おいおいおい。
What are you doing?
It has a bitter taste.
苦い味がする。
What if it's poisonous?
本当だよ。
Did you ever see poison stored in enormous jars like that? Anyway,
いやいや
there
い
is
や
a
いや。
doctor nearby.
So, what do you think it is?
It is some kind of organic
有機化
compound.
合物。
Let us vaporize the liquid and see what happens.
やばいんじゃないかこれは。毒がそれこそ充満するんじゃ。大丈夫かな。ガスバーナー。お、なんか通る。
Small colorless
無
crystals.
色の結晶。
Colorless, tiny crystals that are soluble in water, with a floral smell and a bitter taste. Watson, could you pass me that small bottle, please?
Of course. Here you are. Holmes, do you know what it is?
Wagner's reagent. There was a label on the bottle that you passed to me.
No, Holmes, I meant
Yeah.
the bottle that we found.
Let me add the reagent and see if there is any
沈殿
sediment,
物。
and then I shall tell you.
え？試薬を加えて？
I need to take a pipette and make several drops of the reagent.
え？あ、こっち？調べる。
Red sediment, just as I suspected. This liquid is of organic
ア
origin.
ルカロイド。
It contains some alkaloid. Most likely it is
汚染防止
unstable,
のために
and
金
that is
箔が
why
入
there
れ
is
て
a
ある。
quantity of gold dust to prevent contamination. This mixture is probably a
肥料。
fertilizer. Someone was carrying out unusual experiments in the garden's laboratory.
ん？これでいける？致命的植物、アルカロイド、それと芋虫、これらには何らかの関係があるようだ。他は、でも、つながる？あ、毒殺。実験の準備をする。化学実験室のアルカロイドと芋虫を準備して、致命的植物の実験を行う。芋虫は取ってきたし、もういけんのか。やるかじゃあ。危険な有害植物の実験。
According to the deadly plants information, in order to perform our experiment, we will need fertilizer and food.
肥料
Caterpillars
と
should do
餌？
nicely.
肥料を取ってこなきゃいけないのか。
According to the deadly plants information, in order to perform our experiment, we will need fertilizer
はい。
and
じゃあ植物園かな。
caterpillars should do nicely.
ちょ。 肥料なんてあったっけな。あれ、これは科学実験室ってことは、植物園じゃなくてあっちかな。こっちか？神聖なる組合か？あった。アル
This
カロイド。
substance is an alkaloid, the same as in the bottle we found in the bushes at Kew Gardens. Perfect, Watson. We can begin our experiment.
よし、じゃあ行きましょう。ベーカー街。はい、じゃあ研究行きます。実験。
I imagine that one of these plants would be capable of releasing a toxic
ああ、3
vapor.
つの中の
I
ど
need
れ
to
かな
find
の
out
か。
exactly how it could be done. I shall begin now. Watson, if you are at all optimistic to
いや
have dinner
ー、
this
危ない
evening,
ことする
then
な。
I'd recommend that you put on the gas mask.
ハエトリグサが燃えてたからな。怪しいよな。ハエトリグサで行ってみようか。で、どうするんだ？あ？置き換える？どういうこと？え？ちょっと待って、ごめん。ごめん。
I imagine that one of these plants would be capable of releasing a toxic vapor. I need to find out exactly how it could be done. I shall begin now.
アルカロイドをかけちゃう？気持ち悪い。
This plant becomes inactive
活
after being
発になる。
drenched with
じゃあダメって
alkaloid.
ことかな。注ぐ。お
It appears to open
開く。
after being soaked with alkaloid.
これもダメなんじゃないか？
This plant becomes inactive after
という
being
ことは
drenched with alkaloid.
もうこれっぽいよね。フローレムダイアボレカ。この芋虫は？もうこれっぽいけどな。これを置いて、うわ、気持ち悪い。うわ、なんか出た。
It closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas. I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more.
え？ちょっと待って、どういうこと？こうして開かして、すぐ芋
It
虫を置くっ
appears
て
to
こと？
open after being soaked with alkaloid.
うわー、気持ち悪い。出たよ、
It
なんか。
closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas. I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding.
開いている状
Perhaps if we
態。
agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more.
ん？ピン、あ、開かして、開いたピン
It
で
appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid.
突き刺す。うわ、なんか出た。
It closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas. I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more.
もう少し長く刺激？どういうこと？
This plant seems to have had no reaction from the caterpillars. I find the behavior of predators utterly fascinating.
とにかくまず注ぐ、開くでしょこれで。
It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid.
蒸してみる？で、ピンをすぐに刺す。
I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is
長
open,
い間刺激するっていうのがわかんないな。
no reaction.
開くでしょ？
It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid.
あ、これをもっと足すってことかな。
No reaction.
ノーリアクション。でも芋虫置いてもまたバグッとやってガスが出て終わるんだよな。でも閉じちゃうから。
This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid.
あ、閉じさせて芋虫を置くのかな。
This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid.
ダメだな。あれ？
It closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas. I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is
わかったわかった。
open, it will reveal a little more.
場所が悪いんだ。だから、話せばいいんだ。
It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid. This plant seems to have had no reaction from the caterpillars.
え？
It closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas. I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more.
どういうこと？お、なんか出た。
It shot a spike at me after I stabbed it with a pin. I imagined that its reaction would be ferocious if I increased the strength of my attack. It appears to have fallen inactive after being disturbed. My word! It shot a spike at me after I stabbed it with a pin. I imagined that its reaction would be ferocious if I increased the strength of my attack.
まずかけるでしょう。それでピンでここやったらどうなるの？
My word! It shot a spike at me after I stabbed it with a pin. I imagined that its reaction would be ferocious if I increased the strength of my...
え？
My word. It shot a spike at me
もし
after
僕
I
の攻
stabbed it
撃
with a
力
pin. I
を上げ
imagined
る。
that its reaction would be ferocious if I increased the strength of my attack.
攻撃力を上げる？他に何かあるのかな？
How
ああ、
interesting.
すごい。
What a strong and effective defensive mechanism. I am interested in what might occur if the prickly plant should shoot at it.
わかったわかったわかった。ああ、違う。だから、こうして、まず開かせる。からの
It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid.
芋虫をここに置く。食べる。トゲが散る。
Toxic
あ、
gas
出た
with
出た。
spores. Extraordinary. The plants would be capable of killing only if they were directly next to the victim and stimulated at precisely the right moment.
Let us take our caterpillars to the Colonial Collection Room. We may see things more clearly there.
It is too early,
ま
Watson.
だ早い
Our。suspects will be there. Let us investigate Kew Gardens one more time and ask some questions.
致命的植物の準備には複雑な工程を必要とした。正しく組み合わせた植物を犠牲者の近くに設置して、まさにその瞬間に引き金を引く必要がある。そうだよな。こんなことできるのか？関係してないんじゃないかと思うんだけど。まあ、植物園に行きましょう。ダンの死亡前。
Can you tell me if you saw Mr. Montague Dunn on the day of his death?
Yes, of course. I met him, and we went to see Albert, his son, at around 9:30. He appeared quite calm.
事件の朝の行動。
What were you doing on the morning of the accident?
After paying multiple visits to Albert, I had a little talk with Miss White. Then I returned to my desk to complete some paperwork. Suddenly I observed that Mr. Dunn was not feeling well, so I ran immediately to fetch Albert. I clearly remember that it was around 10:30, for I was late that morning.
Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation.
ダンが死亡した日。
Your father's death does seem highly suspicious. What were your movements here on that day?
Suspicious. Well, I was working in the seed house, taking care of Lysa, something, or Lear Pontus, or... No, wait. Ah, these Latin names. I spent so many hours trying to memorize them.
Did you see your father that day?
Yes, he came here with Mr. Hamish for his weekly visit. There was nothing unusual about that.
And then?
Nothing. They stepped out to the
10
backyard.
時20
It
分
was
前。
perhaps 20 minutes before 10 o'clock. Then about 10 minutes later, I saw my father heading for the dry tropics room while Mr. Hamish returned here.
他の人の行動。
And Mr. Hamish and Miss White, what were they both doing that morning?
Mr. Hamish visited me a couple of times. I also saw him returning from talking with Miss White, and that was at 10 minutes past 10. But then he ran back here to me to tell me that my father was feeling unwell. We hurried across to the water lily room, and I found my father lying dead on the floor. Oh my God.
Thank you, young man. We shall see you again soon.
ホワイトさん、亡くなった日。
Can you tell me what Mr. Dunn was doing upon the day of his death?
I can, but there is nothing very special to say.
研
I
究
was in the
室にい
laboratory
た
when I saw
時、
Mr. Dunn heading towards me. Tuesday is the day of his weekly visit. It was supposed to be at 9, but he was 10 minutes late, as usual.
And then?
Well, he came in to say good morning. Then I saw him spend 2 or 3 minutes by the plants outside the laboratory. After that, he ran out in the direction of the nursery, where Mr. Hamish was working. He was always in a rush during the inspection, you see. I would pity anyone who stood in his way.
死亡時刻。
And that was the last time you saw him?
Yes. I stayed in the laboratory until 20 minutes to 11, when I heard the cries of Albert and Mr. Hamish from the large glass house. I joined them as soon as I could, for I knew that something must be very wrong.
What exactly were you doing
11
in the
時20
laboratory?
分。
I was recording an experiment for my thesis. I only stopped my work once when Mr. Hamish visited me briefly around 10 o'clock.
10時ヘイミッシュ。記録。
You say you were recording an experiment when the tragedy occurred. Might I listen to the roll?
Certainly. Please do. You will find it in the laboratory. It is number 320.
Thank you, miss.
しばらくして。
Everyone has gone, Holmes. The way is clear.
帰っちゃったの？いや、これはもうやったじゃないですか。ちょっと待って。あれ？待って、事務所に行ってみようよ。320番。あった。
Here it is.
他にもあるん
Cylinder
だ。
records.
These plants, classified as shrubs or grasses, have adapted to their arid environment due to a system of underground roots.
This recording seems very long. It is unnecessary to listen to all of it. Miss White was in the laboratory, as she told
それは
us.
11時。